Hello, hello! Sylph, Dominic, Hawkins here, coming to you live from Reigning Spirit Dojo. Hello, Dojo. This Wednesday night, I have to think what day it was, 17th of June. This is session 12 of the Hoshinden Meditation Energywork sessions. And this is the final of the Wednesday night Facebook Live video recordings, because next week we're back into normal classes. So next week, Wednesday the 24th of June, classes kick back off. There's my Bujinkan, 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock, 1 hour class, traditional taijutsu. And then there's the Hoshinden adults general class that I'll run from 8 to 9:30. So next week, come in your gi and thermals and socks with a jacket on the side and a beanie. We will be doing normal classes, extending back to the hour and a half, but we're not allowed to touch each other. And if you're watching this video in the future, and that's completely out of context, just laugh. So it'll be interesting. We'll be back. We'll be doing kata. We've got heaps of ukemi, heaps of weapons kata, and a whole bunch of taijutsu that we'll be doing self-solo practice. I've got more than enough for you, don't worry. So we will probably be able to fit about 16 up to 20 people, depending on the number of mats we put down and move things around. We are currently, I don't know if you can see, we're currently in the midst of a whole bunch of moving stuff around, ready for next week. So if you are coming, prepare for a full class fitness component. Just be aware that there'll be no grabbing and throwing each other on the ground until we have further notice. Yeah. Who knows when that will come. So we'll just give everyone another 1 minute or so to join us in tonight's session. My wonderful audience tonight. The audience keeps growing week after week, which is really good. It's just me sitting here in the cold for the first, 2.5 months. We've been building on, for the last 3 months, session 12 weeks, we've been building on Vipassana-based sense observation meditation, and draw a line between visualization and meditation, make them distinct, separate things, separate purposes, separate goals and outcomes. And we've been practicing quite heavily, developing the ability to observe sensation through the 5 sense organs, far away, close, and at the point of observation. We're going to wrap that activity up tonight, and effectively, I'm not going to move on to the next level of activities. By wrapping that up, that will have kind of finished presenting the level of breath work and the level of sense observation practice that you need to be able to demonstrate for Shodan and Nidan level skills. So it's out there in the public library after this. It's on the YouTube page, etc. That's where you're watching this now, maybe, or Facebook. And if you have any questions, I can address them in class, but this will kind of end the what do you call it? That section of the curriculum in many ways. Hopefully it can act as a bit of a future video reference for students in 5 years, 10 years from now who have questions about this and want more direct, activities day by day, rather than my usual ambiguity in class. So, without further ado, give everyone a couple of minutes to get settled. I'm going to shuffle over here. I think you guys can still see. Okay. Yeah, you can lie down, whatever. If you're at home or here, however you are, it's fine. So you don't need to have really specific Lululemon pants and a very, classy kind of timber and glass yurt studio in order to begin your meditation. You should be able to do this anywhere, even if you're really kind of pissed off on a train somewhere. Don't think you have to prepare yourself. So you can be sitting, you can be standing, you can be lying. Some of you I know listen to this podcast while you're at work. I want you to just begin, eyes open or closed. Start by taking breaths in through the nose, down into the belly. And you're going to fill the belly with breath. So the breath reaches down beyond the base of the belly, and the diaphragm really expands. Take in the breath, and then out through the mouth, great natural exhalation. The inward breath is the one with effort. The inward breath is a pressure, it's a focus. The outward breath As a natural exhalation, return to equilibrium. So you just get into this habit, in through the nose, down into the belly. The belly can fill to its maximum brim, then the chest can rise. And on the outward breath out through the mouth, the chest relaxes and then the belly compresses. And this can take a few minutes to form into an automatic habit if you're new to this, or if it's just been a week since you were doing this last, like caught you out, you and your homework. As you just breathe in through the nose, down into the belly, and out through the mouth. Tongue sits on the roof of the mouth. It sits on the palate, so it's right up behind the top two front teeth. And I told you I wouldn't explain why in these videos. You'll find some of that explanation in the philosophy talks as a separate chunk. Or ask me in class. And as you're just breathing in and out, I want you to be able to feel the way the breath stretches your ribs, stretches the sides of your body, stretches across the back and the kidneys. And on the outward breath, it should form a cavitation. So just allow the breath to shape you. There's no need to sit bolt upright under some perception that you're going to be a more spiritual person if you sit in a very straight way. Just chill, just relax. If the breath in and the breath out shapes your shoulders and kind of turns your body, your torso, your trunk into a bit of a bowl, then on the outward breath, just leave that shape intact. Don't reset yourself into an uprightness. Aim to just have your head resting on top of your shoulders, on top of your hips, so that from the hips up, it's as if you're sitting or standing. From the hips up, there's no extra pressure. The skeletal system is dispersing force as it should. Now that you've been breathing for a few minutes, in through the nose, down into the belly, and out through the mouth, we'll begin our 5 sense organ observation. We're going to start with the sounds that you can hear. I want you to focus on the things that you can hear the furthest away, outside of this room, outside of this building or space. If you're at home, outside, on the street. What can you hear? While breathing. Reaching the hearing out beyond the room. What can you hear on the road outside? A car driving. Tire noise on the road. And one more breath. And I want you to listen to the sounds you can hear close to you, in the room, in the building, in this space. What can you hear that's within a few meters of your body? Just listening without categorization, just curiously listening, inquisitively listening. And walk your focus very close to your body. What can you hear within a few centimeters of your body? Can you hear your own breath? It should be highlighted now. Just like your vision, as you change focus, things blur in the background. Listen to your breathing, the sound of your breathing. It should overshadow the sounds of the cars outside on the road. Focus on your sounds very close to your body. The clothing crinkling as you breathe. Final breath. And just softening your focus on the audible sensation. Continuing your breathing in through the nose, down into the belly, stretching through the belly, the ribs, stretching the back of the kidneys, the diaphragm. And then a natural exhalation out through the mouth. I want you to take your attention to the things that you can smell. Breathing in through the nose. Observing the smell sensation on the inward breath. What can you smell in the surrounding room? What smells are there in the building? At first, if you're new to this, you might just smell cold or a numbness in the smell. If you keep watching and you keep breathing, the smell sensation will divide into subcategories. There will be some kind of quality that becomes more and more discernible to you. Just watch, put all of your mental focus into the experience of what you can smell in the room. Now draw your focus to what you can smell very close to your body. Can you smell your own clothing? Can you pick up the subtlety of smell? Maybe the type of laundry detergent that you wash your clothes in. Or maybe you haven't washed for days and you can smell that. Maybe you can still smell the lingering of dinner or incense in the background of a space. Smelling very close to the outside of your body. And now soften your attention to the olfactory sense. Continue your breathing in through the nose, down into the belly. For now, we're just observing the external sensations. We'll go through the whole cycle and then return for stage 2. So now we're going to move on to the sensation of taste. What can you taste? Tasting in the air around you. The taste is available, mixed in with the smell. So as you're breathing through your nose, down into your belly, and out through your mouth. You'll need to breathe in, hold the breath for 1 or 2 seconds. As you taste, slowly exhale, continue tasting in during the exhalation. And then release the breath at the end, breathing in again. Holding, tasting. Breathing out slowly, continuing to taste. And then breathing in again. Bringing in the information of taste. And then observing taste. What can you taste? Notice how smell and taste are so interconnected and how they oppose each other in the breath cycle. One more breath. Now as you breathe in, you're going to focus on the taste inside your mouth. On the inside of the cheeks and the teeth. What can you taste there? Can you still taste dinner? Or perhaps breakfast? Are there flavours? Is there a cup of tea that you had 6 hours ago? Or if you've had incense burning, is there the taste of the smoke of the incense? 3 breath cycles, focusing on the inside, the taste on the inside of the mouth. One more breath. And just softening your focus on the taste sensation. Continuing to breathe in through the nose, down into the belly. And out through the mouth. Now we're going to take our attention to the visual sensation, sight. Eyes open or closed, it's up to you. If your eyes are closed, I want you to just peer out beyond the eyelids, with the eyelids closed. So you're peering into the colourful glow behind the eyelids. If you're in a room with some light source, the red glow behind the eyelids. Peering out beyond the eyelid, metaphorically. If your eyes are open, picking something in the distance ahead of you, doesn't matter what it is, it can be as detailed or as bland as you want, and just find a point of focus. And your goal is to observe forward and just see your peripheral vision at the same time. Dwell in the middle of both of those experiences. As we take 3 breath cycles, just observing breath, breathing in and out. Just like you were listening for more information. When I said, what could you hear outside? This question is, what more information can you see than if you just casually looked? breath. And now we're going to draw your vision quite close. If your eyes are closed, I want you to focus on the phosphors behind the eyelids, the shapes and the changing colours. If your eyes are open, either something very close to you or you place your own hand up, maybe just one hand away from your face. So it's right on the edge of your ability to focus on the clarity. Staring at this very close object, but still observing your peripheral vision. You should be able to take in a lot of visual information all at the same time. 3 breaths. Final breath. And just soften your attention to the visual sense. Drop your hand, relax your body. So we walk through. Now we're going to go back to the audible sense. And we're going to oscillate between out there and right at the boundary of out there. So as you go back, your eyes are open or closed, breathing in through the nose, down into the belly. I want you to begin listening to the sounds you can hear, very far away. What is the most furthest away thing that you can hear? Really extend, reach into the outside world. And now I want you to listen at your eardrum. Listen right at the point of hearing. 3 breaths, listening to your own eardrum. And just notice the difference, the sensation, the mental sensation being extended, being quite drawn out compared to feeling squashed, getting very close. Just notice your emotional relationship and involvement, the difference between hearing the sounds out there and hearing the sound at your hearing level, at your eardrum. You might even find some other sounds. There might be a ringing, or you might become very aware of your swallowing, or your jaw motion as it travels up through the sinus. These details that have always been there, but you weren't listening for them. For advanced study after these videos, dwell your focus of listening at the eardrum while listening to objects far away, and observe your emotional relationship to them then. But for now, just softening your focus on the audible sensation, continuing your breathing in and out. And now we're going to move to the smell sensation, the olfactory sense. As you're breathing, first of all, let's just see what you can smell in the surrounding air. In the building, in the room, what can you smell? 3 breaths. Now we're going to drastically jump and we're going to smell the inside of the nose itself. So the very tissue that you're using to discern smell, I want you to smell the receptors, the smell tissue. 3 breaths. Smelling all up on the inside of the nostrils. That strange sensation, we become very aware of the temperature. And just relax the focus on the smell at such a close range. Move on to taste. So we're going to begin as you breathe in through your nose, down into your belly, out through the mouth. Now I want you to taste the tongue, tasting the taste buds themselves. 3 breaths. What is the taste of the tongue? Final breath. And just relax the focus on taste sensation. But do you notice how different the experience is? From tasting, using your tongue, to tasting the tongue itself. The difference of smelling using your nose to smelling the nose. The difference of listening using your eardrums to listening to your eardrums. Now we move on to sight. It's probably the hardest of the 5. Eyes open or closed. The goal at first is to just look into the space. If your eyes are closed, peering through, metaphorically and imaginatively, visually through your closed eyelids, peering into the colours or the redness or the brightness behind the eyelids. If your eyes are open, just peering into the oblivious space and watching the peripheral vision at the same time. 3 breath cycles. Now as you continue to breathe, we're going to focus on looking at the tissue of the eye. So if your eyes are closed, you're seeing forward the visions behind the eyelids, but your goal is to look at the tissue of the eye itself. How are you seeing? Look at it from where you see. If your eyes are open and you're staring into oblivion, I want you to look at the tissue of the eye, using the eye. These are definitely the hardest of the 5 to do. 3 breaths. Final breath. And just softening the focus on the vision. You can still use your eyes. And we'll move to the final sense. Oh, I just realised I skipped one in the previous setting. Oh, good. We'll do all three of the sections here then. Moving to the tactile sense. None of you said anything. Moving to the tactile sense. Thought I had a plan. So I've got you all fooled. So, sense of tactical experience. We'll take our attention down to the most obvious of the tactile sensations at first for you. The experience of pressure, where the body weight meets the ground. So wherever your body meets the ground as a point of pressure. If you're lying down, that might be your hips, your feet, your ankles, your shoulders, the back of your neck, your head. If you're sitting down, I'm sitting in Seiza, it's on the front of my shins, my ankles, my toes. If you're sitting cross-legged, it might be your backside, it might be your feet. If you're standing, it might be the ball of the feet, or the pad of the toes, or the arch side, or the heel. Find somewhere where you can experience a sense of pressure, where the body weight meets the ground. And we'll just start by exploring that feeling. 3 breaths, just observing that sensation and seeing if it divides into sensations of greater detail. Off we go. And now we're going to shift our focus to the actual tissue, but not the pressure or the feeling sensation. I want you to choose one small area, maybe a 20-cent piece size, on your body that's in contact with the ground. Where there is this pressure sensation, I want you to reach further into the actual tissue that is in contact with the ground. As you take 3 breaths, dwelling your focus attention in the tissue, what can you feel? Off we go. And now we're going to change our focus. I want you to reach out into just the other side of that tissue, or the clothing. Can you breathe and can you extend your feeling sensation into the ground itself? 3 breaths. Can you feel the ground? Final breath. You just soften the focus on the tactile sense. And you can just relax your vision and your eyesight. And so we've looped through, sorry about my little error missing tactile the first time around. We've looped through observing through the 5 sense organs, experiences that are out there, far away, experiences that are out there but very close, and experiences that are out there but right at the point of sensation. And they're forms of essentially paradoxical riddles. They're like koan, unanswerable riddles. Can you actually hear your eardrums? Hear it? Or is that simply what we coin hearing anyway? Can you actually taste the taste buds of your tongue? Or is that what tasting is? And yet there is an experiential difference when you're listening to sounds far away and when you're listening at the point of hearing, at the eardrum. But don't be fooled, all of those experiences are about focus on observation that is external. And the 5 sense organs are tools for experiencing the reality. Meditation is as simple as that. Experience the reality. And the question isn't, are these things going on? The question should never be, are there sounds to hear? Or are there feelings to be felt? But the questions are, what are the sounds that it's possible to hear? What is the limit of what is possible to be felt? Just how detailed can your sense of smell become? Can you smell someone cooking dinner 2 streets away, just wafting on the wind? And then we get to some of the amazing old stories. Bujinkan has one of these. There's stories of Takamatsu Soke. There's a story of him taking some of his students onto a mountain for training in Japan. And they spend ages walking the mountain. It takes them a long time to walk to where their training spot is. And they're there for a short period of time, maybe a few hours. And then Sensei stops and he starts smelling. And he says, we have to leave now because the washerwomen have just started their ascent of the mountain 5 kilometers away. And so the students and Takamatsu Sensei pack up and begin their descent down the mountain. And then pass a group of washerwomen who are coming up the mountain as they head back to the village. And there's lots of these stories. So those experiences, the heightened sense of physical sensation, are called siddhi. They're called mystical experiences. And in most writings, they are written off as mere side effects of the practice, and they're not at all of interest. They're not the goal, because they lead you off the actual interest. They're very useful, and you can see why it doesn't take a genius to work out why these types of really extending and exploring the human potential and skills that develop from that. It's very obvious why these things were prized in military arts and combat arts. It doesn't take a genius to work out why these kinds of skill sets and meditations are passed down through like the ninja lines and the ninjutsu study and the samurai lineages. Because it's super useful if you can suddenly stop and hear people talking a kilometer away. Especially if your life depends on it. That's a great skill. But that's not the purpose. The question in the meditation was, what can you hear? And if you're really studying the meditation, you'll die long before you could ever answer that question. Because there's an infinite division of complexity into what you can hear. So if the question is, what can you taste? Most people get let off the first year, or 6 months or 12 months, when they think they've discovered all of the tastes that are available. And they're like, yeah, I've got this sorted, I'm moving on to, knitting. Maybe sit with it for a bit longer and you start to discover that you might have categorized all of the tastes available on a macro level. And then, unfortunately, they start to divide into slight variations and textures of taste. And the experience of pressure in the body and the tactile sensation starts to divide into pressure gives way to a sensation of maybe cold and throbbing. And then you decide to watch one of them for another year, and they divide and give way to prickly and tight. And so you watch one of them, and they further divide down the line, theoretically, infinitely. Although, in Shakyamuni Buddha's sutras and writings from his 21-day sit at Bodhigaya, Vipassana, he does coin this idea that he arrived at the end of his meditation when he could no longer experience division of the sensations. And he then in his sutras, in his notes, says that at that point there were four fundamental, all the sensation of pain or experience that he started with had divided into four fundamental textures, and they're translated, but they were called earth, air, water, and fire as a quality of texture, of experience. And then he coins that there must be space, there must be a division that causes those to be separate, or else he wouldn't be able to experience one in contrast to the other. And so that's where the idea of a five-element system begins. And then it spreads, and we find it in our Anglo-Saxon culture, we find it rife back through the Greek cultures and elemental systems, and the Platonic solids and all of that, all those classical Greek contexts, and into Celtic myth and like the modern Japanese system. So these ideas are pretty long-reaching. What we're going to do, we've still got about 15 minutes. Now we're going to move to a sense observation. We're going to look at the hand again. So we've been doing this, we did this for the first 6 or 7 sessions, and then I focused quite heavily, the last maybe month and a half, on the sense organ observation. Now, if you're new to this, don't worry, just get dragged along kicking and screaming. If you have been practicing this during the time, this should be very quick for you. If not, bear with me, I'll give you maybe 3 breaths per focus, yeah? But these activities are like Shodan, Nidan, so first, second level, black belt level activities. You should be aiming towards the experience where within one breath you can conjure very vivid sensation of all parts of the body under your gaze. So you can immediately look at the end of your nose, and within one breath begin experiencing tingling at the end of the nose. Look at the bottom of the left earlobe, and within a breath cycle you should begin to feel warmth, heat, pulse, blood flow, tingling sensation in the earlobe. So now we're going to start on the left hand. We'll do this pretty quickly. I'm going to start off the left thumb. And you can look at it if you want, it's really helpful, especially if you're new to it. And I want you to look at the thumb pad, so up near the tip of the thumb. And all you have to do is, as you breathe, just observe nervous system sensation in the left thumb. I'm not going to give you any hints as to what you're looking for. It's like I told you to go outside and just listen for something, but you don't know what it is that you're meant to be hearing. So you listen intently. Just look intently at the thumb pad. As you breathe, 2 more breaths. and you start to begin to experience some forms of sensation. If you're new to this, it might even start off as just a macro sense of cold or numb. Or you might be lucky enough that you can gain a sense of throbbing or blood flow. All right, now I want you to move your attention to the nail, the thumbnail. As you just watch and breathe. Good, and now move your attention to the knuckle of the thumb, the bone itself. Now I want you to just softly observe the different sensations as you skim them with your mind. The pad of the thumb, the nail bed, and the knuckle, or the bone. You should be able to discern slight differences in the tissue and the sensations, the feedback sensations. The bone might have a density to it. Now we're going to move on to the left pointer finger. We're going to do the same thing. So second finger on the left hand. Start at the finger pad. 3 breaths. Just observe until some curious physical sensations start to become apparent. Don't be surprised if part of your mind oscillates between the finger and the thumb that you were just thinking about, but you have to just focus on the finger. Now the fingernail, same pointer finger, left hand. Focus on the pointer finger. Now the bone of the finger, the knuckles. And now just softly compare the experiences. Just brush over them in your mind. The finger pad, the fingernail, the finger knuckle, the bone. And you should be able to paint a pretty basic picture of the finger experientially in your mind. Now move on to the third finger, the left hand root finger, middle finger. Start at the finger pad, 3 breaths, observing sensation. And the nail, or the nail bed. And the knuckle, and the bone. And now softly skimming the whole finger, left middle finger, just observing sensation up and down the finger, the outside tissue, the nail bed, the bone, the knuckles. And now the fourth finger, left hand ring finger, starting at the pad. Now the fingernail, now the bone and the knuckle. And now the whole finger, just observing different sensations in different parts of the finger. Remember that numbness is a sensation. The very fact that you can clarify the edge of it. If it wasn't a sensation, you'd be oblivious to it anyway. Onto the last finger on the left hand, the pinky finger. Start at the finger pad. Observing sensation. By now, you should be quite quick at this, especially higher grades, especially if you've been doing this for the last couple of months. Now the nail bed of the pinky finger. And now the bone and the joint of the finger. And now just the whole finger as a general sweeping experience. Up and down the finger. And now we're going to briefly skim and compare each finger to the others. So starting at the thumb, just scan the whole finger quickly. The pad, the nail, bone, the knuckles, the tissue. And then move on to the next finger. And just see how quickly you can conjure a very general, broad sense of nervous system experience and response to that finger. Move on to the next finger. And we jump quite quickly. Move on to the next finger. Compare that to the thumb. Go back to the pointer finger. Now onto the pinky. And now the middle finger. And back to the thumb. And now the palm of the hand. And the back of the hand. And the wrist. And now the whole hand itself, as if you're stepping back in perspective. The whole left hand compared to the right hand. Just a broad, generalized nervous system sensation. And now think about your feet. The soles of both feet. And observe the experience of sensation observation in the feet. Move up into one of the toes, or the webbing of the toes. And just draw yourself through. You should be getting faster and faster at this as the evening goes on. Draw yourself through each toe if you want. And now up into your throat, the inside of your throat. And then just relax. And just soften your attention and soften your eyes and just kind of look around and shake yourself out of wonderland. And if you really want to take it to some incredibly trippy levels, you can follow on some of the activities we did in the videos, I think maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, where I was finally walking you up to sense observation with the breath, where we hold the breath and then the heartbeat becomes apparent, and then observing the beating of the heart and the pulse through the arteries throughout the body. And suddenly the experience of your ankles and your wrists and the side of your neck and your face and your forehead starts coming to the forefront. So these experiences, I said, these are all classed as city effectively. They're excellent experiences, but they're not the goal. Don't lose sight of the goal. The question was, what can you feel? The question wasn't, can you become a super god who can feel the end of your nose at will? That's cool, but completely irrelevant. It doesn't help you live a life. It doesn't mean that you're not going to be a total jerk. Yeah. It doesn't magically, you don't suddenly elevate and lift off into the cloud stratosphere, yeah? So you just keep focused on the goal. What you usually find in those activities is, as you get better and better and you scan through the body, you will find that there's areas of the body that are really hard to penetrate mentally. The whole left hand might be easy. You move up through the arm and you sit there and you have an hour meditation and time flies by and you realize everything's very easy, except you just cannot, for the life of you, focus on your right pinky finger. Doesn't matter how much time you sit there in your focus, doesn't matter how much time you compare it to all other experiences, it's like there's a numbness, or maybe there's a particular part, your left knee, or a little part on your right side. That's really good feedback. That tells you that for some reason there's something there that you're kind of wincing away from. Maybe an injury, or maybe something that's like an old injury. You really hurt yourself. It was so painful you just kind of decided you couldn't. Oh my God, you almost lost your whole finger. You had to turn away from it. It takes practice to mentally sort of enliven, I suppose, what would they call that? To reincarnate a sense of experience in that part of the body. Yeah? It can be a really fascinating experience, especially when you start to realize that you've got injuries that you completely forgot about, If we do more of this in class, this is the end of these sessions. There's a big world of where you can take that. But just for a bit of fun, without being responsible for where this is going to lead you, if you'd like to have continue exploring that activity on a much broader level, feel free to write me emails about this experience. But whenever you feel rising sensations, like rising emotions, rising body sensations, begin thinking about your feet and begin thinking about the base of your feet, and breathe and just observe what happens. Observe what it does to your emotional state. Observe what it does to the energy experience in your body, whatever that experience might be. And then just keep a little bit of a journal about that and just note that. And you get really good at that, so that when something's happening, and this conversation's getting really heated and it's rushing towards the point where you're about to tell that person really what you think about them, just suddenly think about your feet for 2 breaths or a breath, and just observe if that potentially pulls the wind out of your sails in your, like you're about to get yourself fired, or, it's like the divorce is right on the edge. Just see what happens when you suddenly think about your feet, and just explore that. And without me saying anything particular, I'm sure you can think of lots of other experiences in your life where things are rising and you can focus on your feet. And there might be really fascinating experiences that come from that. I'm just going to leave that up to you to find out. I hope you've enjoyed these sessions. We've arrived at the end. Thank you, audience. That was enjoyable as always. I don't think they could hear you. All 400 people hear it. So it's been an excellent 12 weeks. Thank you. I've really enjoyed these sessions. I've enjoyed them so much that I think that I'll definitely make more video content for Hoshinden and add it up into YouTube and into the public library for works. But as of right now, this brings a close to these sessions and this particular level of this activity. We have one more Facebook Live video for this whole coronavirus lockdown fun time, TM, which is on Friday. And that's the final Hoshinden Philosophy and Theory Facebook Live session. I do have a topic that I'm happy to present. I'll present for the first 20 minutes or 15 minutes. But my goal for the Friday night talk, it's a 3-minute talk. My goal for the Friday night talk is a Q&A. So anyone who, you guys here for the audience tonight, those of you at home who would like to, take a step back into dojo land, come along on Friday. No gear, just, bring your own blanket and hot water bottle and a cup of tea. But it's a Q&A. You come with questions, I'll answer them. A wrap up of that stream of dialogue. I hope that you've had fun. I hope that these sessions have been enjoyable and enlivening. If you have questions about the things that have been going on the last 12 weeks, ask me when we're back into class, because next Wednesday, the 24th of June, we start back formally. I'll put up the timetable on the page and update the website. There'll be Wednesday, the 24th of June, next Wednesday, there'll be a 7 to 8 o'clock Bujinkan class that I'll be running. And then there's an 8 to 9:30 Hoshinden adults general class that I'll be running, ages 13 up. So we've extended the adults class to include all teenagers from the age 13 up to dead. Yep. I'll just leave that there and not mention anything else about the proposed timetable. If you've had experiences over the last few weeks, especially in the meditation and energy work videos, that are very new and you've never had them before and you don't really have a reference for them, or you don't have a context, or you suddenly think that you're going crazy, just shoot me an email or come in and chat to me in class. I'm happy, sit down and have a cup of tea after class and we can dialogue, because a lot of the purpose for an oral tradition in martial arts is to be able to provide dialogue as we all go through these funky experiences. And some of them can be really bizarre. With very little work, you can suddenly just trigger an experience of the sensation at the end of your nose, and that can be really annoying because you walk around for weeks on end, just constantly. It's like a mosquito is buzzing next to you. You're just suddenly sitting chewing your nails in the corner because all you can feel is the end of your nose and nothing else. You can't taste anything. Food has no flavour. Come and chat to me, because they're all just steps in a general activity of the exploration of mental powers in the body. I hope that you've had a good time. Lots of love. I'll either see you on Friday for the video or in class. Or maybe this is the future, it's 100 years from now. Good luck. Bye.